contributed greatly into shaping Europe and the world as well into what it is today. We all know those famous French bread, croissants, and those classy French hats. Something happened in the late 18th century to this glorious nation that shook the very foundations of Europe and changed the way people looked at the government. Get ready for the French Revolution, the bloodiest years of French history.
Many things caused the French Revolution, but it was obviously a direct response to the obvious abuses of the French monarchy, also known as the Old Regime. It all started with the financial crisis of the monarchy. This happened because of the economic problems due to the War of Louis XIV and XV, the upkeep of Versailles and its poor harvests, and inequitable taxes. Now, what you must understand is that most of France was occupied with the third estate, the lowest estate of people. They were the poorest, but the people who were doing all of the work, the middle class of France, as if you will. They were known as the bourgeoisie. This is a French teacher from Cedar Ridge High School named Madame Douglas. She has been studying and teaching her students of the bourgeoisie for many years now.
Donc voilà, je m'appelle Madame Douglas, je suis professeure de français ici au lycée de Cedar Ridge. Je vais vous parler aujourd'hui de la Révolution française qui est très importante dans l'histoire de la France. C'est un des moments capitaux de notre histoire. La Révolution française, bien sûr, elle date de 1789. C'est là que tout a commencé avec la prise de la Bastille. La Révolution française commence à ce jour-là, le 14 juillet. Et c'est ce que nous célébrons toutes les années, comme les Américains qui célèbrent le 14 juillet. Nous, les Français, nous célébrons le 14 juillet, qui marque l'anniversaire de la Révolution française.
Now, what were these middle-class citizens all going on about? Well, they were talking about the financial crisis of France. It all happened with the bad harvest between 1787 and 1788, the rising prices of taxes and of all products all over France, the unemployment of 1/3 of the population, and, of course, Marie Antoinette and her extravagance. She flaunted her wealth. She was the Queen of France, and, well, let's have Professor Blanca from Columbia University explain a little bit more about her.
Marie Antoinette was originally the Duchess of Austria and married King Louis XVI of France when she was a very young age. So she lived a very sheltered life. She never knew any hardships. Was very easily persuaded by those around her. Many didn't really know she had her own mind. She was very ignorant of the turmoils going on in her land, and the king himself wasn't very intelligent.
As everyone saw Marie Antoinette so wealthy when they were also poor, and for many other reasons, the bread riots began. Women were involved as well, and that's when the famous expression, "let them eat cake," came from.
We have dessert left over. Let them eat cake. Go get the cake, mate. And let them eat cake! Cake to the
This is outrageous. I mean,
This is outrageous.
happening in France.
Let them eat cake. Bring it up there. Bring it up.
When King Louis XVI came to power, his spending plus Marie Antoinette's extravagant spending sent the country into further debt. Therefore, with the monarchy having no money, the country went into further debt, and therefore there was no money for the peasants and themselves, and no money for the monarchy to spend and keep the power. Besides that, there was agriculture that severely decreased. There was red riots. People felt they had no power in their say, that their government was in turmoil, that there was nothing to protect them, there was nothing for them to truly be ruling them. So when the people finally revolted, there was nothing the government could do. There was nothing much that the government could do to actually solve this problem that they were faced with.
One thing that always happened in France was the Estates, General to National Assembly. It was composed of representatives from all three of the orders, where there was 300 for the first estate, 300 for the second estate, and 600 for the third estate because it was the most populated. But only one vote was allowed per order. On June 17, 1789, the third estate called a National Assembly. They were tired of always coming in second. They were always outnumbered when it always came to all of the new laws being passed. So, they decided to call a National Assembly themselves that they called the Tennis Court Assembly at Versailles. There, they created the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen, and it was modeled after the Declaration of Independence. The third estate there at Versailles named themselves the Congress of France. In the meanwhile, people like Marie Antoinette and Louis XIV had no idea that their entire country was going corrupt. With the start of this revolution, it's not surprising that a new political club happened in France. The curator, Mikayla from the Louvre Museum in Paris, France, has come to tell us a little bit more about this new political party, the Jacobins, and their effect on French history.
The Reign of Terror was a conflict between political rivals, the Girondins and the Jacobins. They were the enemies of the revolution. Maximilien Robespierre took over that though. He was a natural-born speaker and the leader of the radicals. This inspired his passion to help peasants and create more equal life.
As the peasants began fighting in this war, they began to realize that it was amazing having some independence. This whole idea of independence and thinking for themselves all actually came from Enlightenment.
The Enlightenment ideals had quite an influence on the French Revolution. Great thinkers like John Locke and his ideas of equality and freedom among the people created much talk among the French, especially when the French started to find themselves facing hunger and poverty in great amounts that they found the government was no longer working.
Enlightenment also affected places like Haiti, where they finally freed themselves from the France that ended slavery. Also, France was also basically based off of the Enlightenment that happened in America. Their Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen was basically modeled off of the Declaration of Independence. As you can see, the French Revolution not only played a huge role in their own country, but was based off of and played a huge role in other countries and other people's freedom. The peasants ended up winning this revolution, since they completely outnumbered the royal family and every one of their people. They took over the whole French monarchy. There was no more monarchy, and both the king and the queen, yes, Marie Antoinette and her glory days were over. They were both beheaded. But along with the royal family, 17,000 people were killed. The Louisiana Purchase was sold to Thomas Jefferson to make money for the France after this huge revolution, and Napoleon Bonaparte was elected leader and appointed himself the Emperor of France. He then began to attempt to reign the world. He wanted to stop British exports, and he wanted to get all of France's re-exports back on track. He invaded Russia in 1812, which was basically the downfall and the turning point of the French of Napoleon's time. Everyone had to break off their alliances with the French, and France itself began to crumble.
Un moment très difficile de notre histoire, c'est aussi un moment capital de notre histoire, puisque tout a changé. À partir de là, nous avons une république qui existe jusqu'aujourd'hui. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes sous la 5e République. Donc, il y a eu 5 républiques depuis 1789.
And what did happen was that Europe came together and had an international congress called the Congress of Vienna that got together right after the downfall of Napoleon I. They discussed how they could get Europe back together. They discussed territorial and boundary issues and ways to make sure that Europe was still profitable as a continent together. Finally, France was back on track and back together with all of their friends in Europe and was in peace for at least 40 years.